It is truly baffling why the Accelerated Dragon isn't more popular, whether at Grandmaster level or amongst the mere mortals below. It's an excellent opening. Only one small change to the move order, and yet the main line of the Dragon, where black plays d6 and knight f6 before knight c6, is a much more frequent visitor to the tournament scene, and particularly amongst young players. That's remarkable. Perhaps it's the influence of the dreaded Maroczy bind, where white attempts to cramp the black position from the word go. Certainly that variation has proved difficult. I will show that line must be respected, but not overly so. In fact, black has fine chances there. My research indicates that you are about to encounter one of the best defences to the King's Pawn. The Accelerated Dragon is a dependable choice, a winning weapon, offering black the prospect of sharp and interesting play. Just ask top grandmasters Anand, Larsen, Tiviakov, Pettersson and Pigosov, all prominent supporters of the opening, what they think. Then sit back, enjoy the show and prepare to join the fan club. Well, we move on now to examining specific variations. I think I'd like to examine now a system known as the classical system, where white tries to make do with simple development, really. We'll go through the opening moves first, and we're going to look at a game between Josenhans and Lafleur, and this game is from the Nassau Masters tournament in 1992. And the classical variation starts off as follows: knight c3, bishop to g7. And the first move I want to consider is knight to b3. Now, not many of your opponents are going to do this. In fact, I think almost all of them are going to play bishop e3 in this position. But you need to have an effective reply ready just in case they do play knight b3. And of course, what white's aiming to do here is to try and get a classical formation with bishop to e2 and bishop to e3 without black being able to get the move d7 to d5. He's trying to stop black from playing that freeing thrust. Well, I believe against this particular move order, black should strike out on an independent course here with bishop takes c3 check. B takes c3 and then knight to f6. Now obviously this is quite a controversial procedure because black is surrendering his dark squared bishop. But in return, he smashes up white's pawns, he takes the lead in development, and he gives priority to getting the freeing thrust d7 to d5 in as quickly as possible. And this is exactly what Lafleur does in this game. Now, whatever the objective merits of this idea, and I don't think it's bad at all, over the board, I think this will be a very effective method. I think your opponent really won't feel at ease handling this type of position because black is striving for the initiative from the word go. Let's have a look how the game should develop from this position. Well, Josenhans took on d5 and black took back with the queen. So already black has raced ahead in development. White's got double pawns there on c3 and c2. It's just a question of whether black can restrain white's bishop on c1 from getting into the game. If white can get that bishop going, then black's not going to have that great a position. But anyway, Lafleur plays bishop f5. As you can see, quick development. And white played c4. Then came queen d7, keeping on the bishop. Knight to c5. Queen to c8. And now the first sign that white's trying to develop his bishop effectively into the game, bishop to h6. Okay, well, Lafleur played knight to g4. White continued his disruptive policy with bishop g7. And our key move, queen to c7. Now, I don't know whether Lafleur was aware of this, but this is still an old analysis by Grandmaster Mihai Suba, who was actually quite fond of black's position in this variation. Well, white's got to stop the checkmate on h2, so he plays pawn to g3. The rook goes to g8, bishop comes back to c3, and now we're going to stop the game Josenhans Lafleur here. Josenhans played bishop c3, Lafleur played knight c5. I'd like to direct you to Suba's recommendation in this position, which instead of knight c5 is castles on the queen side. A very sharp move, but after rook b1, b6, this is all analysis by Suba, knight to a6, queen to b7, pawn to c5. It looks as though white's actually making some headway on the queen side. But then knight c to e5, and Suba assesses this position as very good for black. Certainly there's pressure along the a8 to h1 diagonal. Black immediately threatens knight to f3 check, which would be absolutely bone-crushing if he could play it. And there's a hit on d3. The knight on e5, bishop on f5, and rook on d8 all pressurise white on d3. So Suba's analysis seems to indicate that in this particular line, black has a very good position.